Now to a story that has been all over social media. The president of the NAACP in Spokane, Washington is facing scrutiny. Rachel Dolezal is accused of pretending to be black, but her parents say she's white. While under the guise of living as a black woman, Dolezal filed police complaints saying she received hate mail at the organization's post office box. Authorities, however, have said it's unlikely a letter that didn't have a date stamp or barcode could have been placed in the box without a key. The NAACP says in a statement that the organization's leaders can come from any background and they respect Dolezal's privacy in the matter. So is this a case of someone identifying with another race or of perpetuating a fraud? The NAACP leader, Racial Flap, is our topic this half hour, and we want to hear from you on our Fox 26 Facebook page. You can also weigh in on Twitter. Joining us live in the newsroom right now is our Roundup panel. It's led by our senior legal analyst, Chris Tritico, our public policy analyst, Jackie Bally, and in for Mustafa is former chair of the Harris County Democratic Party, Jerry Bernberg. All right, I'm sure you guys have lots of opinions. What's your take on this?
You know, this every time something new comes out on this story, I just think it can't get any weirder than it already is. And as you look at as the story emerges and you dig a little deeper into it, I think this is going to end up a story of someone with a mental illness that they're dealing with, more than they are someone who's trying to perpetrate a fraud on the NAACP in Spokane. And to that end, I had to change all of the comments and the quips that I had come up with because I had a string of one-liners, Sally, for this situation. But I had to take them away because I do think she's suffering from a mental illness. But Jackie, I just want to ask you, first off, is there such a thing as being transracial?
Well, okay, with the potential mental illness aside, this is hilarious. This story is so funny to me. And I think it's really funny because she looks much prettier as a black woman than she ever did as a white woman. And she really went through a lot of effort, from changing the hair, tanning the skin, changing her body. So this is something that was very important to her. But all of that aside, she really put in 20 years or more working for people of color, doing a lot of things in the civil rights movement. So putting all of that aside, regardless of her race, she really has done a lot of positive things. Transracial, a lot of the times you usually see light-skinned black people, people who are biracial, maybe a quarter black or an eighth black, who do the opposite, you know, who label themselves as white or biracial. You rarely see white people until Dave Wilson, who ran for HCC. Right. Now we have her, but you rarely see white people wanting to be black. I'm just excited that people want to be black. That's great.
You know, Jerry, is this a case of fraud? And when you look at some of the complaints she's made about the letter, that's obvious that it couldn't have been mailed, and the allegations of racism that she's made that couldn't have been true, is she setting back the NAACP in their efforts?
How can this possibly be a story in Harris County, Texas? And by the way, with regard to other folks, and I remember when we used to talk about Bill Clinton as being the first black president.
He still is regarded as the first black president.
So, look, and you know, obviously we have this recent phenomenon with Caitlyn now Jenner and experiencing being a woman in a man's body. I don't know of any reason why an individual such as this lady in Spokane can't experience, who grew up with 4 black siblings, who's you know, surrounded herself with the black culture, can't feel inside that she relates much closer,
a black man.
Much closer to African American than to any other Anglo or whatever. But why does this matter to us?
I don't have any problem with anyone identifying as something else. I don't have a problem with her identifying as being an African American. But is she perpetrating a fraud on those people who joined the NAACP, and she's claiming to be African American when she's not? Wouldn't it be better just to say, look, I'm not African American, but I can help you.
Wait a minute. She's African American. If she has the soul of an African American, if she has the beliefs of the African American, all you're saying is she doesn't have the biology of the African American. And, you know, so what?
Clearly
you know,
she feels
what
it in
she's
her
been doing
spirit.
has been helpful to the community.
All right, let me go to Sally. She's monitoring our social media.
All right. Obviously, there are some great comments on social media about this, some not so fit for television. But let's take a look at some of them. Ben this morning says he's reminded of when Rachel reminds of Steve Martin in The Jerk. What? I'm not black. Remember that part of that famous movie there. This person says transracial is not a thing. And then Abby says, I support her. Race identity is a choice. It's who you most identify with. She's done great things. Does skin color really matter? And then this person, if sexual orientation is a choice and gender apparently is a choice, then maybe Rachel Dolezal should be able to choose her race.
You know, I don't disagree with that last tweet. But the question that I have that burns in my mind, Jackie, is she goes in and she's not honest about it. And that's really the problem, I think, is that all the people that voted for her to be the leader of the NAACP in Spokane were lied to.
She feels in her spirit and her soul she's black. She wants people to think she's down with the people, right? So, I mean, seriously, so what she does is she tries to look more like the people. It doesn't really take away from all of her hard work and the wonderful things she's done in the civil rights movement. So I think this is just cracking me up, because when you go through all of that effort, I mean, as a woman, y'all don't realize this, it takes a lot to look this good. It does. And for her to actually look so much better as a black woman, that's really even more of an effort. Think about all the tanning to get her hair like that.
I got up at 4:15 to put my makeup on.
And you look beautiful, yes.
Jerry, final thought.
Touch any of this. My final thought is this. I do think it's a bit insulting to suggest that feeling that you're a black person when you have white genes means that you have mental illness. I don't think that's an appropriate way that we should be viewing this.
That's not my view. That's not my view. When you look at the things that she's done, and the allegations she's made that we know are not true.
Well, even say, wait a minute. You say we know are not true. I don't buy into that. But when you say, what's the difference between saying I'm an individual who has associated with blacks all my life, I've been fighting for African Americans all my life, I've got a gene that says I'm not African American. Does that mean that people in the NAACP should not elect her to be the chair? I think that's a little bit insulting to folks in the NAACP.
I think for the most part, black people are, like I said earlier, we're excited she wants to be
the NAACP was
black.
formed by Anglos, by the way.
And my only thought is, had she come in and said,
Originally.
it would be totally different. It absolutely wouldn't be a story today.